Hello folks and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a package from Spring Creek Model Trains, not affiliated, just a happy customer. And as you can probably tell by the thumbnail and the title of the video, this is an Athearn Genesis diesel, and this is a Union Pacific AC4400cw, the number 6700. This is the contemporary model with the yellow sill and the flag on the side. I'm not going to go too deep into the unpacking because it's a standard Athearn Genesis diesel package. Protects the model very well. It comes with your standard warranty and your manuals and all that sort of stuff there, so no real need to go through all this. But going through the exploded diagrams, you can really see how many different variants that they can tool up for the AC44s, and a lot of roads bought them, so it makes sense. There's like 3 or 4 separate sheets here of parts and diagrams, and gives you an idea of how many different variants they can make. Now, funny enough, when I purchased this, I actually wanted a DC version. I wasn't looking for the sound-equipped version of this model, but everywhere was more or less sold out of the DC version. If they had any of the sound-equipped versions in stock, they had maybe 1 or 2. So I kind of had very little options available. And I figured what I would do is just swap the Tsunami with an ESU, because I have standardized on ESU, and that's what I'm going to do with this one. And just a quick look inside the packaging, we also get some extra roller bearing caps, which is really nice, and some, looks like lift rings are in this little pocket here in the foam, which is really nice actually. Now, I didn't realize when I bought this model at the time that the sound-equipped versions of Athearn Genesis diesels come with the motherboard-style decoder of Tsunami 2, rather than a 21-pin decoder that you could just pull out and swap. So what that means is I'm going to have to remove the board entirely, rather than just do a simple decoder swap, which is a little frustrating, I will admit. But looking at the model, it's very well detailed, it's very crisp. It's no blue box model, it's much nicer. Why don't we fire it up and see how it performs? Well, that's not good. I could feel the motor moving, but there's nothing happening, so I guess I'm gonna have to take this apart and see what the problem is. So after taking the shell off the model, which was fairly simple, we can see the motherboard on top. There's the standard Athearn Genesis motor, the lighting connection plunger board, spring plunger board, which is kind of cool. No wires between the shell and the frame, which is nice. Speaker at the back, and it doesn't, the flywheels don't really turn, the motor is not turning over, and that's when I notice inside there's a piece of what looks like wire insulation kind of just jammed in the motor there in the armature. So after just pulling that out with a little toothpick, yeah, it's just a piece of stray wire insulation that got into the motor, which is unfortunate, but hopefully the model will move now and there's no obstructions with the motor and it seems to rotate freely. So my original intention with this video was to compare the two decoders through the same speaker, and I was going to go ahead and do the scale sound system speaker in 6867, but unfortunately, since 6700 has a motherboard decoder, can't really do that. So what I'm going to have to do is just compare the two, and I'm not going to do a full comparison of all the different sound functions. I'm really just going to look at the startup sequence, the idling sounds, going straight to notch 8, and just kind of see how they compare a little bit. You know, people have their preference between soundtracks and ESU, and I guess to a lesser extent in the modern diesel era of motive power, TCS. You don't really see a lot of TCS with these models, but I figured it would be interesting enough to compare the two. But I am going to swap out the soundtracks decoder for an ESU Loksound 5 Direct, because that's what I have. I have one of the boards here, and that'll be wired up with a Loksound 5 Micro, and that way I can consist it with all my other Loksound equipped locomotives, which is pretty much the entire UP fleet of diesels that I have, and that's really why I'm doing this. I have someone who's interested in buying the Tsunami off of me, so it will be going to a good home at the very least. But why don't we just take a quick look and see what they sound like. So overall, I think the soundtracks actually sounds really good. It's nothing wrong with it. It might sound a little more muffled compared to the 6867 with the Loksound, but I think that might just be a product of the speaker. I think the Scale Sound System speaker is a higher quality piece than what Athearn uses in theirs. Not saying that the Athearn speaker is terrible by any means. I'm actually not going to be swapping it out very soon. It's going to stay the way it is for now. But it does sound like the Loksound is a little more open sounding, I guess. It doesn't sound as muffled. One of the things I don't care about with the Tsunami is the automatic kind of startup sequence that happens as soon as the decoder detects track power. I much prefer that being a button that I can press to start it rather than, you know, have all of my locomotives fire up at once when I turn the layout on or something like that. And I know that's something you can change within the CV settings of Tsunami. Not something I care for, but it is something to note. Both models have the ability to do independent and train brake, which is nice. I think one of the things I don't like about the ESU is when you throw it in reverse, you get that loud ka-chunk, as if you're, I guess, in the cab and you're throwing it into reverse, and I don't really care for that as much. I think that's something I can adjust as well, no big deal. And a final note on the model compared to its detailed blue box brethren. I think the Genesis model, of course, is worlds ahead of the blue box model in terms of detail, even after all the detail I've added. However, I don't feel bad running these two next to each other. And I've had people point out 6867 and be like, what is that? Is that a scale trains, or is that, you know, and they are usually pretty surprised when I tell them it was a bog standard blue box model that I've super detailed. And that's pretty cool, but I will admit it does not have near the level of finesse and crisp detail that the Athearn Genesis model has. That being said, again, I'm not going to feel bad about running them next to each other. And that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Spring Creek Model Trains for having this model in stock and having it. Honestly, it was the best price that I could find. And funny story about that, they actually had this model on a trailer going to Amherst for the big train show, and it was probably going to get sold at the show if I was very unlucky. I actually purchased it the morning that they were leaving. Thankfully, they reached out to me and said, hey, this is on that trailer, tell them not to sell it. And they managed to get it back on another trailer or something and got it to me in really good time, actually. So shout out to the folks at Spring Creek Model Trains, big fan of theirs, and that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I will see you in the next video. If you like the video at all, consider liking, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one.